Hello everyone, in this video we will continue with actual development. We will first start by designing a subsystem and then we will implement that and then we will continue to other subsystems. You can see we have finished writing most of the requirements analysis. There could be anything that we want to change later on, but now we will continue with the design. We will talk about the system architecture and we will do some subsystem decomposition. We're going to be using a 3-tier architecture. We will have the subsystems in here. So the first one is going to be the user subsystem. There's going to be the client devices. It will talk to the API, which is on Django. We have Nginx as our reverse proxy. And after that, if we need an image, we're going to save it in S3. But the client devices, they will get the link to the image on S3 and they will get the image directly from S3. For the WebSockets, we need Redis, and obviously for the persistent data, we're going to use Postgres. Let's now continue with the subsystems. We will start from the user subsystem, which will allow users to sign up and log in. The first thing we have in the user subsystem is the user object itself. I want to design this in a way how Django itself works, because we're going to have a user and that's going to be a class which the ORM will convert it to SQL later on. But how do we get to the user object, which is an entity? We will have boundary class, and that boundary will be how the user interface or the website will communicate with the whole backend. So the first thing is it will go through the routes first, right? So whatever route we hit, Django will handle that and then it will pass it to the appropriate view set. So we're going to say user view set. So in my subsystem, I'm going to go from view set to serializer to the model, which is the entity user. Okay, so the UserCreateSerializer is what we're going to use for registering, and then after we log in, we're going to get the user detail, and that would be through the UserSimpleSerializer. So the difference is the UserCreateSerializer expects password and extra things like username, but when we're trying to get the information, we're not going to return the password, right? So we need a separate serializer for this. Now let's draw the component diagram. So how does our UI communicate with the user subsystem? We will have the routes in the middle. And then the routes is going to lead us to the subsystem that we want. We have the user subsystem now, and then we're going to have many more. After that, we will connect it to the ORM, and the ORM will connect to the database. Let's now continue with the backend and let's create the user subsystem. So we're going to use Django and we need to add Django in the requirements as well as Django REST framework. We also need PG because we're going to use Postgres as our database. We will need python.env for reading the .env files. Let's add Django course headers so that we do not have a problem with our front end communicating with our backend. We also need the debug toolbar. And finally, the simple JWT because we're going to use JWT for authentication. Let's now install everything. Let's create our Django backend. Let's call it server. So we're going to use Django admin, start project, server. Now that we have our server folder set up, which is our Django project, we're going to create the user, or we can call it account package, or in Django terms, it will be called an app, a Django app. Let's first go inside the server folder and we'll say python manage.py start app, and the name is going to be account. So here we have almost everything we need. We are missing urls.py, but we will add it. First, I want to add the user model here. So we allow users to register with their profile picture, name, email, username, and password. You can see here we have email, username, name, profile picture, password, and connects. So let's write all of these in our model. We will start with the ID. Now let's have the email and the username. So we will allow maximum 50 characters for the username, but I think some names can be longer than 50 characters and people may want to use their name as a username. Maybe we will go to up to 255 characters and it's going to be unique. We also have connects. Let's use our custom user manager. Now we have our model. Let's test it. But before that, I forgot that I didn't set up the database. So if we continue now, we are going to use SQLite. You can see that our engine is SQLite. We can just try it with SQLite just to be sure that our code is working. I also forgot to make migrations. Yeah, we need to add account to installed apps here. I forgot to add auth user model, which is our account dot user. We also have image field cannot be used because pillow is not installed. Let's search for pillow. You can see we have our db.sql file, which is our database for now, but we will use Postgres later on. Okay, so we have created it successfully, and let's see. So we have is super user is false, everything, email, username, name, and we don't have profile picture. Our connect is 0. Now that we have the user model, we can start creating the serializers. So this is our model. We're using model serializer to make things simple, and the fields are going to be our email, username, name, profile picture, and then we have password 1 and password 2. We're going to use these for checking if the password and the confirm password are the same. Let's add password 1 and password 2 up here because they are not defined in the model. Okay, so first we're going to validate everything. The first thing is that the passwords are the same. So if the two don't match, the confirm password is wrong. We're going to check it in the user interface as well, but we want to check it in the API too. We will return, or we will raise serializers dot validation here. So this is going to be for password. Now if the email already exists, for example, we will do the same for the username. Now if everything is good, then we will return the data. Let's set the password here like this. Okay, let's try this with let's first actually add the simple serializer. Okay, so what are the fields that we want to expose or to show? Okay, so we will want email, is the username, the name, because in the user interface we might need to show these 3, and maybe the connects as well. This is for the users themselves, not for the rest of the public. And we need the profile picture as well, I think. Now we will create the view set. For now, we will just use the create model mixin, which is the post request that we're going to send. It's going to be handled with this mixin. If we used the model view set instead of the generic view set, we will get all of the 4 operations for create, for deleting, getting a list and also retrieving uh, a specific user, as well as updating as well. But we want the creation for now. We're going to say user view set. So the first thing we need is a query set. We will import it from models. Now we will add the serializer, which is the simple one from dot serializers. Now this time the serializer that we will use is the user create serializer. Okay, and we will pass the request.data. So if the serializer is valid, that means we don't have any errors. We're going to save everything. If there is any problem, if we face an exception, we're just going to return that. But if the serializer is not valid, that means our if block didn't run, we're going to return serializer.errors. Now to test this, we're going to create a urls.py file in account. Now we will register this urls.py file in our main urls.py, which is under server. We will remove all of this comments. Let's call this API/account. So when we go to the route API/account/users, we will find this view set, and when we send a post request to /users, we're going to be handled with this create method. Now we want to make this open to everyone. Doesn't require authentication because we're just signing up. So let's say get permission. We will return allow any. Now we didn't register REST framework in our settings.py in installed apps. So what we will be testing is if we create a new user. Let's check how many users we have now. We have only one user. So if we increase our user when we send an API request, we will know that we are creating a new user. We're running at localhost 8000, port 8000. So we can say 8000, and then we will go to API/account/users. We will send a post request. I think this is enough. Let's test it. So here we can see we have 201 created response. This is our user. So if we come here and we run user.objects.count, we will get 2 users now. Now let's run it again to see if it says username or email exists. Yeah, email exists, username exists. I want to try with passwords that do not match. Okay, let's try with a different username. And let's see. Passwords must match. Okay, I think everything is working as we expect. Now we should continue with the login part. We will use simple JWT for this. To use simple JWT, we have to add it here. Let's say REST framework, simple JWT, and let's go to our URLs in account. What we are going to do is we will add we will have to add 2 routes for both login and refresh. We will get those from the built-in simple JWT handlers. So we can say .views. We will import token obtain pair view, which is how we get the access token and the refresh token, and then we have token refresh view. Now we will come here, and for login what we're going to do is we'll say token obtain pair view dot as view, and we'll give it a name like token obtain. We have these two. Let's see if we have our server refreshed and we can test it. Now since we are using email as our username in our modules.py, if you remember, so we have username field email. I believe it's going to be what we need. Email is test@gmail.com and the password is test password. So instead of 2 users, we're going to send it to login. We have our refresh and access token because our password is working. So if we use something else and if it's an incorrect password, it's going to say error. I think invalid credentials detail, no active account found with the given credentials. So this is actually configurable. We can change what it says here. Other than that, we want to use the refresh token to refresh. We have our access token. Now we want to add one more view in our view set. Say I want to get my user object or my profile. So let's create something called me. I always use me to get my profile. We find the view set in slash users, and then we will say slash me because we said detail is equal to false. We will find that exact view when we go like this, slash users slash me. It's a get request, and let's send it. I think we will need the access token here. Okay, let's copy this and see what it's about. Okay, we can handle this. So let's say if not request.user. But first we should actually configure REST framework to use simple JWT in our settings. And it should do all of the guarding for routes that require authentication. You can come here and say REST framework. So by default, all of the views require authentication unless we say a specific view does not require logging in or authentication, like we did here for create. So let's come here, try it again. Okay, so we either need to use comma here to make this work so that it is a tuple, or we can use an array. I actually prefer arrays. I don't want commas, but you can leave the commas. So it says unauthorized. This is what I was expecting. We can get the access token from here, for example, and we can have pair authentication. So let's try it here. Or let's just say where is header authentication? Okay, it says token is expired. I didn't see that. We could have used the pair authentication here, and I think it should be the same. Token expired. So we can come here and we can refresh it. We can increase the expiration time to be in days instead of, I think it's 5 minutes by default. So here is what we get when we go to users/me, and I think this is enough for our system now. I previously added a repo for this project because I didn't want to lose it. So we should also say git add and save everything that we did here. Let's first check everything is as we expect in the design. Okay, we forgot to build it. Let's go to DevDocs and let's build it. This is the subsystem that we just built. We didn't yet add the user interface or the website for the login page and the sign up page, but this subsystem is complete because we have UserViewSet, we have the user model, we have the two serializers, and this by itself can do the login, the sign up, and this is, I think, this is how a subsystem should be done, one whole process. So let's actually save this. Let's actually see what are the changes in case we added something that we don't want, and if we need to add it to git ignore, we have init. Okay, so I think everything is good. Let's commit this and push.